Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Rage rooms. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again with Salt Strong Unchurched. Ever heard of a rage room, an anger room, a smash room? They're all the same. It's where you go in to a room that's got TVs, printers, mannequins, all kinds of crazy stuff, and they give you a baseball bat, and you go there and beat the living heck out of everything in there, just basically destroy it, in hopes that you feel better and that your anger subsides somehow magically. A short term, it probably does work, but long term, probably not. And someone had forwarded me a video recently showing one of these rage rooms where someone was in there and just going to town with a baseball bat on a lot of electronics and stuff, and glass going everywhere. And I was just scratching my head saying, what in the world? And the person's comment was, hey, you want to go to one of these? Because there's actually quite a few, even around here in Central Florida. This is a real thing. This is not something made up that just, one person did. And I don't know, I really started thinking about it, and watching a couple of videos. I got real curious. I was like, all right, is this a joke? Like, are people doing this is like, hey, this is kind of a fun bachelor party thing, or is it real? And it's actually a little bit of both. I've watched the video of the girl who started it, and this is sad. It's really sad. And there's a whole point to all of this, as you can imagine. So this fairly young girl, younger than me, I'm going to say in her 30s, started this, one of the first ones in Dallas, Texas. And as she's getting interviewed and telling the story, she's like, well, yeah, growing up, I saw a lot of different men dating, and even family members, when they get in a fight or argument with someone, they punched a hole through the wall or destroyed something. And it always seemed to make them feel better and kind of stop the fight. And so, right house, it's one that's really, really sad. Because she's associating with these men who knows what the fight was about, doesn't even matter, but that they were going to the point of punching holes through walls or destroying stuff, and that's how she associated them with feeling better. Of course, it probably feels better short term, and that, yes, that usually would probably stop a little bit of the rage. If you punched a hole through a wall, you usually don't keep going. You've kind of you have released it all at that point. But and she's so her next point was, yeah, and I felt like we really need this as a society, for men and women to get all this rage out. It's a quick way of just releasing all that anger. And I don't know, I'm sitting there just shaking and scratching my head at the same time, saying, wow, this is so sad that she is associating this as a good thing. Like, oh yeah, it's good to punch a hole through a wall when you're in an argument. It's a great way to end the drama. And oh my gosh. So anyhow, I started looking at one of the pages, because there are a bunch of these, like some call them rage rooms, some call them smash rooms, etc. And the one website, it in big bold, this is like one of their headlines. It says, "You are too blessed to be stressed." I like that. And I agree. That sounds like it'd be an Unchurched podcast. You are too blessed to be stressed. And then immediately underneath that, this is no lie. So it says, you are too blessed to be stressed. This is on the Rage Room, one of the Rage Room's websites. And then right underneath it, it says, life sucks. Take a break, like break something, pun intended, good dad joke, and have a smashing good time. So it starts off with something nice. You're too blessed to be stressed, which I agree with. You are too blessed to be stressed. Life sucks. Take a break and have a smashing good time. Oh, the fact that people are paying money. It costs money to go, and this is a business, a for-profit business, to go demolish stuff in hopes that it's going to just remove all their problems. In one case, it says, pummel your problems away. Pummel your problems away was another quote on one of the websites. And I'm laughing because the answer's right in front of us. And regardless if you've read the Bible or not, or if you listened to these podcasts before, but God is asking us to go to him. God is asking us to do really one big thing. Is this all? The answer is one word. It's not smashing stuff. It's not, getting rid of your rage. It's forgiveness. It is impossible. Remember, we talked about this before with anxiety. It's impossible to feel two things at the same time, meaning your body can't be full of rage and anger and forgiveness and gratitude at the same point. At the same time, it's impossible. It can only do one. It could switch back and forth, right? Just like you could be full of rage and destroy the TV or whatever, and then all of a sudden be a little bit calmer. But the only way to truly get rid of all this stuff is to forgive. It's the only answer. And it's what God has asked us to do. It's what Jesus did. Look at Jesus' life. I mean, let's put yourself in his shoes, right? And if you're familiar with the Bible story, he knew one of his disciples was going to turn him in, right? To deceive him. I mean, imagine if you had 12 best friends, right? And these are your people, your homies, the people that you count on. And you were told, let's just say someone else, or you had an angel come down and say, one of your 12 friends is going to deceive you and rat you out to the point you're going to die for it. Would you be angry? I would. It would be really tough not to go to bed that night with a lot of anger right. And I might need to go to a rage room after that. Right. I mean, can you imagine? Just put yourself in Jesus' shoes, because that's what happened, right? He knew, and he knew which one it was, right? And all his disciples are saying, God, is it me? Am I the best? Who's going to do it? And I mean, he called out who was going to do this to him, which disciple was going to essentially just rat him out to the point he was taken and crucified. And yet he was full of forgiveness. He already forgave him before it even happened. Right. That's what God is asking us to do. And that's really tough in some cases. I mean, that's a very extreme. I don't know anyone who's been, turned in by a friend and to the point they get crucified, except, one person, that obviously Jesus. I don't have any personal friends that have been through that, but I mean, that's an extreme case. And yet Jesus, the entire time, was never full of anger. He had a lot of reasons to be. I mean, there was not many things in terms of society-wise going his way. I mean, there was people wanted to kill him the whole time. I mean, he was having to go from city to city to avoid, essentially getting arrested. I mean, there's a lot of people. There was more people against him than for him. Why he was living, and I mean, can you imagine that would be a really tough place to be? Can you imagine if the majority of America was against you, or even in your own little city? I mean, it's even tough to even fathom. And yet he was full of forgiveness. He was full of peace, and that's what God is asking us to do. So I would challenge you, if you. I don't know anyone listening here who's been to a rage room. If you have, I'm not judging, but I would challenge you, if you ever get to that point again where you truly have that much anger, instead of paying to go bash a TV, which it 100% will work short term, long term, the only answer is forgiveness. Whatever you're angry about, it has to be something. And most people aren't just born with being angry about everything. There's usually something that happened. Like the one guy interviewed, he had said that he was an Asian guy and said he had been teased and had some like racist remarks said about him. I get that, and that it would be really tough for me to sit here and say that wouldn't make me angry, because it absolutely would. But going to pay $45 to smash a TV, that doesn't really fix things. It does short term, but not long term. The only way is forgiveness, right? And there's been some of the wildest stories that you hear about mothers and fathers losing their own children to a drunk driver or to a murder or whatever. And you read about some of these people who don't forgive, and they are just angry. And I can't even imagine not being angry at that. But almost 100% of them who are angry and carry that anger and that hate around with them, they end up getting divorced. They end up being miserable, and they never grow again for the rest of their lives. I mean, it's so true. If you really look at some of the research that's been done on this, and these are people who have lost loved ones, especially like kids, and the ones who just harbor that anger, their life goes in a downward spiral. It is so, so, so sad. And I still can't comprehend why that stuff happens, right? And there's so many of us who've had bad things happen or lost a loved one. You're like, Jesus, why would you do that? And many times he's challenging us. The other hand, and I know people personally who have been through this. I'm thinking of one of my good high school friends who did lose her son to a driver, and young son. I mean, this is 8, 9 years old, and I can't even imagine. And she forgave him and ended up turning this young person who killed her son into a Christian, and has now taken him in because he came from a really bad upbringing. And I mean, can you imagine? And I'm telling you, her life and her husband's life and her family's life has blossomed. It is like God has blessed her to the nth degree. And there's so many stories there where the family just forgives. It might not happen overnight. It probably wouldn't for me. I'll be honest. That would be really, really tough. But I know if I harbor that anger, there's not enough rage rooms that are going to fix the problem until you release it. The only way to release it is to forgive, and which is what God has called us to do. That's the only way to release all that anger and to be able to grow again and to love again. It's no wonder that all of these people who never forgive and have something really bad where they're truly angry, not angry like someone cut me off on a street, but I'm talking about like someone killed a family member or a loved one, and you harbor that anger. It's really tough for you to love again. It's so sad, and it's really tough for you to truly grow. And I do believe that's why a majority of those instances end up in a family divorce and just a lot of hatred and a lot of anger and a lot of resentment. It's no way to go through life. I mean, the irony is that one site had it right. You were too blessed to be stressed. I mean, you don't need to have the subheadline there in that instance, but yeah, you were too blessed to be stressed, and forgiveness is the only answer. Forgiveness, and because otherwise these people or the instance or whatever it is just living rent free in your head. And everything that's in your head at any given time is taking away from something good that could be in your head or in your body. As I said, you can't be two things at once. So either you're forgiving and you're grateful and you're full of love, or it's the opposite. And so I would just challenge any of you, if you're going through a tough time, if you have something to be angry about, there's nothing wrong with that. There are times in our lives when, yes, there are certain things that are going to make you angry. There's certain times where we've all been done wrong, but we have a choice. There's such thing as suffering. There's such thing as mourning, and all that is completely natural. I don't think it's natural to sit there and suffer and mourn and be full of anger forever. At some point, you got to let it go, and a rage room is not going to do it, unfortunately. It's going to take forgiveness from that, young Asian guy who said that. I mean, until he forgives whoever said something to him, he's just going to be carrying this around forever, and with this chip on his shoulder. I mean, right? I mean, if you were his parents, would you want your son to just have a chip on their shoulder their whole lives and be angry about stuff, or you want them to be full of love and at some point forgive? Easier to do when you're a parent looking down, but a lot of us have to look at our own lives. And I've been in this situation before. I've shared it in a past podcast where an old business deal, a guy had really done me wrong, and I was angry about that forever because it was a lot of money. And just the way he even handled it, and was just flipping about, all right, well, come sue me then if you want to get it. I mean, literally just like someone punching you in the face and walking away and saying, come get me if you want. It was, I don't know. You could still probably tell I was still a little bit frustrated by the whole thing. I never had anyone do me that wrong, like purposefully. It was just flat out malicious. And I believe God, I know why now. I mean, it taught me a lot about growing a business and getting things in writing, not just having handshakes with someone that you think you can trust. Because had I had it in writing, I could have taken him to court and probably won. But instead, we didn't have enough stuff in writing, and he knew it and took advantage of me. And until I forgave that person, I felt like I wasn't growing. I was just, even waking up mad about them. And I literally forgave him. I ended up sending him an email and just said, "Hey man, I've been mad about this for a long time, and I just want to let you know I forgive you. I hope you and your family are doing awesome." Never heard back from him, and I didn't expect to. But that one, and you could call people. I know one of the books I read says just call someone at a time they're out of town and get their voicemail, just to leave that message. And if you get them on the phone, just tell them real quick, you forgive them, you love them, and hang up. Don't even let them talk. It's wild how much that is a release of anger. Like doing that was a billion times more powerful than going to a rage room for 5 minutes and beating up on a TV or a mannequin or something. So I don't know. I challenge you, if you're going through a tough time, if there's something you're angry about, try forgiving the person or the incident or God or whatever it is. Try that first and truly forgive. Don't just say, "All right, I forgive you." Like my kids do sometimes when we're forcing them to apologize to their brother or sister for hitting them. Like truly mean it, forgive and move on. And you will see that, yes, you were too blessed to be stressed. So hope this helps. If you have any further questions or need clarification or have an example of just something that you're really struggling with, let me know. I love hearing from all the listeners every week. It's joe@saltstrong.com. And we've got gonna have a couple guests coming on soon as well. I've had a couple other podcasts I've been listening to. One guy in particular, I'm going to have him on the show. So stay tuned in the next couple weeks. Chat soon. Love you guys.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was pain.